We're live. Yeah.
Yay.
Sarah, what? Sarah,
All right. Courtney.
I'm sorry. I'm goofy today. I don't know why. Okay.
All right. Let's cut right to the chase here. All right. The Bartelos question about the evidence Shelley provides about the innate goodness of the creature. So the creature, as the thing says, like the creature is naturally good at heart. Like once he's released and like once he abandoned Victor's apartment in chapter 11, like as he told in chapter 11, and was in the forest. I remember on one of the pages him talking about his happiness to listen to the birds. Like I was around page 106 and 107 that he was talking about how beautiful the moon was, how amazing it was to listen to the birds singing. So and he really deeply admired nature. So he was naturally a very good creature. You agree?
I feel like. Oh, go ahead.
No, he's fine.
Are you sure? Okay. I was gonna say I felt like once he was exposed to like the true reality of society and realizing that it's not all as good as it appears to be, that's when he started to really like alter his mindset and start developing like these negative feelings of like hatred and despising the despising nature of human society.
Yeah, I feel like we can see like he's inherently good when he first I guess wakes up and sees Victor. No, it's when Victor was asleep and Victor wakes up and he sees the monster at the edge of his bed smiling, but he wasn't harming him. It was more Victor's reaction that scares him and Victor runs away. I feel like that shows that he's inherently good and kind of foreshadows that like everyone's reaction to him being ugly is what's going to turn him in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ties into the second part of Bartolo's question about human society affecting him either positively or negatively. And based on what you guys are saying, you'd say 100% negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it can be slightly argued that, like, definitely I'd say it affected him more negatively because it's what made him become angry later on. But I'd say, like, in the beginning, before he started to realize all of the negative parts about society, that it actually was really positive on him. Because when he was in that little hut right next to the cottage, he started to see all of the good traits of humanity within that family with Felix, Agatha, is that how her name is pronounced?
Mm-hmm.
And the blind man. And he saw that humans can have compassion and companionship for each other. And he could feel and empathize with the good and bad emotions that the three of those people in that family shared, basically. So, in that sense, like in the sense of seeing the compassion that humans can have for each other affected him positively, and he started to have hope. But once his hope was let down, that's when it started to really spiral.
I feel like the amount of like prejudice that he's encountered throughout like the entire society kind of ruined him in a way. Like he kind of has to accept the fact, well, not kind of, he does have to accept the fact that nobody's really going to accept him based off of his appearance. And that's what's really like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like tampering with his mindset of how he views like society. But what I also found kind of ironic is how the only kindness that he actually received comes from the blind man. I feel like Shelley kind of did that on purpose, like in a way.
Yeah, I want to point out like two different things. Like first answering like Sarah's question when like society's like influence on him was all good. I disagree with that because every time it was good, it ended up badly for him. Like when he like saw like the kindness from the couple, he was like, "Oh, I can go up to them and like I can talk to them and they can share their kindness like with me." And the old man did, but the women in Safia didn't. They saw him and they screamed and everyone ran away and he ran away. And I felt like that whole like interaction between them, it just shows that everything
every interaction that he's going to have with humankind is bad. And the second thing I want to bring up with Courtney, with the wait, can you repeat that again?
About the blind man?
Yeah, with the blind man.
Yeah.
I feel like Felix and the monster kind of mirror each other because they were both innocent before the cruelty of humanity kind of made them isolate themselves. If that makes sense. Do I need to like explain it?
No, I actually think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about the blind man since Courtney brought it up. I didn't think that it was a coincidence that the only person that was nice to him was the blind man, because every other person saw him for what he really looked like and immediately, just based on his appearance, judged them based on what they saw. See, society, I feel like Shelley's trying to convey that through, like, society has this tendency of treating people based on the way they look, and based on the way they look, they expect them to act a certain way. For example, the monster looked really ugly, so society kind of expected him to act ugly. So out of fear for the expectation for the monster to act such a way, everybody just immediately ran away. However, because of the fact that the blind man couldn't see him, he couldn't make that automatic assumption of bias based against the monster. So for a glimpse in a split second, you get to see the monster's kindness portrayed onto another person, and there's somebody that can actually see how kind the monster really is on the inside. So I think one of the things she might be trying to say is that if you really look into something that's ugly, it might actually really be beautiful on the inside if you try really hard enough.
Yeah, I could see that as a theme or like a message of the story.
Yeah.
And I also kind of think it conflicts with the idea of something that's beautiful on the outside might actually really be ugly on the inside. Because through the monster, you can see something ugly on the outside can really be beautiful because the monster on the inside was really kind. However, I think the idea of also something being beautiful on the outside can be dangerous. Like, for example, knowledge. Knowledge is something that you see a lot throughout the book. And it's something that is often portrayed as a really beautiful thing. Like, for example, Victor really wanted to obtain knowledge as well as the monster. They both wanted to understand. And through this understanding, they thought that it would be better for them. But in reality, the more knowledge that they tended to obtain, the more in despair they kind of seemed to fall under. Like, Victor suddenly became a coward because of all of this knowledge that he obtained. And the monster became evil, quite frankly, and kind of let down because of how much he truly realized how lonely he is because of how ugly he is. I hope that made sense.
No, it did. I feel like, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine because my thoughts are actually still kind of developing. So.
Oh, okay. I felt like your point kind of connected to like the question that I had after reading all the chapters, because all these chapters were the monster's like development or his loss of like his development from innocence to like not innocent.
Loss of innocence?
Yeah. So like the question I have was, does collective knowledge and curiosity inevitably hurt the human race in the long run? So my question was kind of towards like the human race rather than the monster. So like the knowledge of how to create life, and kind of like when he was mentioning Adam and Eve in the end, and we all know like the apple kind of like gave them the knowledge of like bad and good. Of like bad and good. I kind of connected that to how humans kind of have that knowledge and kind of like develop other feelings from that, like judgment, envy, jealousy, and it just, those feelings are now influencing the monster. And I don't know, I just felt like your point connected to that question.
Honestly, I feel like it wouldn't be inevitable. I feel like it honestly depends on like who you are and how you handle like such power. Because everybody uses knowledge to like their own use. It's up to you. Like, it's up to you how you use it. I don't think it inevitably like leads to something like that.
That's interesting. I find that interesting comparison between Adam and Eve, because you see the comparison that the monster makes to Adam about himself Although now that you bring up the fruit of knowledge, the story goes that the serpent was telling Eve, if you eat the apple, you will gain knowledge. And in a sense, she did gain knowledge, but it was also kind of a downside. The exact same thing can be applied to the monster, as he watched this family in the cottage grow, like watched the family in the cottage. He began to obtain knowledge, but it was also a bad thing because he started to really realize how lonely he is in this world.
So I see where Courtney's coming from with like knowledge can be good depending on how you use it, but everyone in the book has used it negatively or has indirectly used it negatively. So do you think that Shelley is trying to make the point that knowledge is always bad, or it just depends on how people use it?
Probably still on depending on how people use it. I feel like she's only trying to highlight that, like, the negative effects of it, because it's always said, like, in the reality, like, oh, knowledge is good, like, knowledge is great, but they don't really acknowledge, like, the negative impacts that it could have on, like, society. So I feel like she's just trying to highlight, like, that.
That's interesting. Do we want to change the subject, or do we still want to stay on this one?
We could change the subject. I mean, it's up to y'all if y'all don't have anything else to say about that. Because I was going to talk about the characters, like the family that the monster actually encountered.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So when I was reading it and I realized, like, it was in an Arabic family, I found it interesting how Shelley chose the words. I found it interesting how Shelley actually chose them to be Arabic specifically. So me being me, I decided to, like, look up their names. I found like 3 of them. So I can start with, do you guys want me to just read all of them? Or do you want me to, like, read one and then, like, discuss?
I just read all of them.
Yeah.
So the first one I found was Safi, however you want to pronounce it. And it means well. And the name actually was originally a male Arabic name denoting pure. And the Greek meaning of the name Safi actually conveys to wisdom. So I found that pretty unique. And then next we have Felix, which is from a Roman cognomen, which means lucky and successful in Latin. And it was acquired as a nickname by the 1st century BC Roman general Sulla. And it also appears in the New Testament belonging to the governor of Judea, who imprisoned St. Paul. And it was actually popular among early Christians, being borne by many early saints and 4 popes, and was used in England since the Middle Ages, and was actually more popular in Europe. And somebody famous who had that name was German composer Felix, I'm going to butcher this, Mendelssohn. I'm going to say that it's that, which I can look up in a little bit to see if that has any significance as well. And then we have Agatha, which can also translate to Agatha, which is a feminine name derived from the ancient Greek word agathos, which means good. And it was the name of the Saint Agatha of Sicily, a 3rd century Christian martyr. And the name is rarely used in English-speaking countries in the recent years. So,
sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
I kind of want to bring up Felix's name. I can see how it's both ironic and makes sense at the same time, because he loses his vision. And was it because he got the 2 to escape from prison? I can't remember how he lost his vision.
You're mixing them up again. The old guy is the one that's blind. Felix actually never loses his vision.
Oh, then my theory doesn't make sense. Never mind.
No,
it's okay. It's okay, because I actually have something about the irony. Because, so I think it was ironic that it was it means lucky and successful, because, like, at first I think you were gonna go along the lines of, like, he was lucky and successful at first because he.
Did Sarah cut out with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she cut out for me too.
Oh no.
Oh my god.
Oh, no.
Sarah.
A fallen warrior.
I'll text her.
Technical difficulties.
Actually, I'll call her. This is serious.
Because I don't know if she realizes that she got cut off.
Yeah.
Oh, we did so well. What time did we start at? We started at 9 or 8:33. It's 8:56. So we would just need like, do you want to make like a part 2?
Yeah, I guess we can make a part 2.
Okay, because yeah, so we made it about 20 minutes. So we have like 10 minutes to go.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 minutes, right? No, because we started at 9 or 8:33.
8:40, something like that. I don't know.
Oh, it was 8:43?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shoot. Oh, then we have like a good, not really 20, like 15, 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
All right. All right, I'm gonna pause this one. We'll be back.